As a member of the anime community, it is far too easy to grow content with the mundane. As our senses are pounded down by endless mediocrity of shows too generic and stale to have anything to say, it's far too easy to forget about the trailblazers who originally set the standards. The animators and directors who pushed boundaries and challenged their audiences. The ones who opened our eyes to the true potential of the medium. The stories that held the space for us to feel seen and valid, and the ones who helped us want to better ourselves and grow like the characters they molded us to be. There are 3 massive trailblazers who did this for me: Hayao Miyazaki, Satoshi Kon, and Masaaki Yuasa. We kicked off this video essay series with the visionary works of Masaaki Yuasa. And as much as I'd love to do an entry on Hayao Miyazaki, what more is there really to say? But Satoshi Kon? Talk about one of the most underrated trailblazers who not only influenced the anime industry, but also Hollywood. Satoshi Kon's project helped usher in a wave of boundary-pushing media in the anime industry. His legacy inspired so many of our current favorite animators, directors, and creators today. And although he is no longer with us after passing away from pancreatic cancer in 2010 at the very young age of 46, his legacy lives on through his absolutely revolutionary works. Perfect Blue was Satoshi Kon's first feature-length film that premiered in 1997 and absolutely blasted a hole through the anime community. Today, it is widely acknowledged as one of the best psychological thrillers in all of anime. Its horror and thriller elements made it an absolute standout, but what really sets it apart is how it is edited. We follow Mima, a former music idol who transitions into acting and soon finds herself in a horrific stalking situation. As the film progresses, she starts having more and more unexplainable situations that start to make her question her very reality. The editing follows this same pattern, making the audience work overtime to try to figure out what's going on. The further it goes, both Mima and the audience find themselves getting lost in the confusing blur that is her existence. I've watched this film a few times, but then I filmed a reaction to it and had to edit it for dozens of hours. And even after all of that, I still struggle to make sense of everything and track whatever the fuck I saw happen. It's these events that make it a true masterpiece and masterclass of suspense. Perfect Blue has had a lasting impact on both the anime and film world. Darren Aronofsky himself has admitted the eerie similarities between Perfect Blue and his films Black Swan and Requiem for a Dream. Black Swan has a multitude of scenes and plot points that are heavily influenced by Perfect Blue, while Requiem for a Dream literally recreates an entire scene from it. Although Darren Aronofsky has acknowledged the similarities and even briefly met Satoshi Kon in 2001, I don't think he gives him enough credit for the themes and imagery he clearly ripped off. During a 2007 interview, Kon talked about how Aronofsky clearly ripped off some of his scenes, and when he asked Aronofsky about it, he was told that it was just a tribute to Satoshi Kon's work, which obviously Satoshi felt very differently about.
この2カットまんまアングルも構図も同じで
上からのと、はい、この水の中の、はい、
レクイエム・フォー・ドリームに、使われているんですけど、本人に会って確認したら、オマージュだってオマージュですよ、私に、この私にでまあそのレクイエム・フォー・ドリームという、映画の中ではですね、非常に年老いた女性、年を召した女性が、ずっとテレビに出ることに憧れてて、最後部屋の中で幻想を見て、そのテレビの中から人が出てきたりとかですね。
なんかでも話もちょっと
で、その女性が最後、幻想の中で着る服が真っ赤なドレスだったりとかです。えらいこれは
かぶってますよね。
かぶってるっていうかパクリなんじゃねえのみたいな。いやでも本人にやってあ 俺はどうなのって言ったら、いや全部オマージュ。
オマージュ。
It honestly made me lose a lot of respect for Aronofsky. Like, it's okay to copy and recreate scenes, but at least admit and credit the original. If Satoshi Kon would have been alive when Black Swan came out, I think he would have had a lot to say about it at the very least. But this wouldn't be the first or last time Satoshi Kon was borrowed by famous Hollywood directors, but we'll get into that later. Perfect Blue is one of those films that you need to watch more than once, and by once I mean like 10 times. You will literally pick something new up every single time, and even then there's still more to be explored. The themes dealt in the film get heavy, like really heavy. Mima is an idol who is exploited by her management company and literally every single industry professional she comes into contact with. Heads up, I'm gonna get into some light spoilers here. After leaving the music industry, Mima pushes hard for her acting career to be taken seriously. Her management company sets up a photo shoot for her, and during the photo shoot, the photographer coerces her into taking nude photos. When these are published, Mima deals with horrific backlash that affects her career, loses large portions of her fan base, and even sees her former idol mates laughing and slut-shaming her. Throughout the film's progression, Perfect Blue showcases countless instances where Mima is exploited by literally everyone around her, but then is also expected to keep a level head while her entire world is falling apart around her. Perfect Blue was way ahead of its time, especially with the way it explores and showcases the dark side of the entertainment industry. As someone who's been in the music industry for over a decade, as well as someone who enjoys K-pop and idol culture, this film is captivating and absolutely horrifying. Especially recognizing how much worse idol culture in Japan and South Korea has gotten since 1997. I cannot even imagine the horrors today's idols are put through, and honestly, it makes me really worry about the industry as a whole. After all, we've already seen the horrific consequences of this idol machine via the literal lives that have been lost because of it. Perfect Blue was that canary in a coal mine who tried to warn us 27 years ago about the horrors of the industry. My hope more than ever is that this film will finally become fully mainstream, leading to new audiences to its message. And hopefully, one day we will see meaningful, systematic change to the idol industry. There's documentary-style biopics, and then there's Millennium Actress, which doesn't just show off our famous protagonist's illustrious career, but literally takes you along with it. The documentary crew who interview her are taken on a literal journey through her life, starting with those painful first roles to her mysterious withdrawal from the industry during the peak of her career. Millennium Actress was not only a breath of fresh air to the oversaturated documentary biopic genre, but it set a new gold standard for it. It's honestly going to be hard to watch biopics after this because this does it in such a beautiful and creative way that it literally knocks everything else out of the park. The main character, Chiyoko Fujiwara, is loosely based on the lives of real-life actresses Setsuko Hara and Hideko Takamine. The films touched on include works in the style of Akira Kurosawa, Thrown by Blood by Yasujiro Ozu, and a monster film in a similar style to Godzilla. The first time I watched it, I was majorly impressed by the avant-garde style of storytelling. How the documentary crew go on this storytelling journey, literally running with her, dodging attacks, sharing the joy, and feeling those devastating moments alongside her. I thought they were going for more of a stylized avant-garde storytelling direction, but upon rewatch, I caught a small detail that changed everything. It's vaguely alluded to that Chiyoko has dementia. Taking that into account, the sharp editing from one era to another, callbacks on movie tropes from her youth appearing in her later years to haunt her, and the through line of what she was chasing for her whole life all came together. I am deeply ashamed that it took me this long to recognize this movie for what it is, a masterpiece. After looking into Satoshi Kon's intentions on Millennium Actress, I learned that both Perfect Blue and Millennium Actress are two sides of the same coin. They both deal with blurring the line between fiction and reality. Perfect Blue saw the negative side, the inner turmoil, the chaos, panic, and confusion as that line is blurred further and further. And Millennium Actress gave us a more positive outlook, starting out introducing these lines as being intentionally blurred for story's sake. As the film progresses, these lines are blurred even further, becoming deeply entangled due to her dementia. There is some controversy over the final line she says and what that means for her character and the story in general. Apparently, many audiences were left feeling betrayed by the ending, but I personally loved it. I am curious to hear your thoughts on the ending if you've seen the film. Did you love it, or were you left feeling unsatisfied? Let's talk about it in the comments below. When it came to this video essay project and I was tasked with rewatching all of Satoshi Kon's work, this is the film I was least excited to revisit. I remember just feeling kind of meh about it the first time I watched it, so I really wasn't expecting much. But I was absolutely floored by the end and deeply embarrassed that I didn't give it the time and space it deserved to be truly appreciated during that first viewing. I can confidently say that it is one of my new favorite anime films of all time. So I ask you, please, learn from my mistake and treat this work of art with the love and care it deserves. Because just like Chiyoko, she was one of a kind. When Tokyo Godfathers debuted in 2003, it completely flew under the radar for not only being one of the greatest Christmas films, but just general life movies ever. I cannot describe just how much I adore this film. But y'all will see that next week because I am dropping my film reaction to it where you can just see me cheesing the f out in real time. Tokyo Godfathers was way ahead of its time, not just for its LGBT representation, but also shining a light on the unhoused population of Japan. It follows the story of three homeless folks as they discover an abandoned baby on Christmas. This event kickstarts a wild journey that takes them all across Tokyo as they search for the baby's parents. The plot is just absolutely batshit, but it's interwoven with so many driving character moments that it makes it wholesome as hell. It is a beautiful and compassionate character study that sheds light on how we, as a society, treat the unhoused population, while also discussing the circumstances that make people homeless in the first place. Jin has been on the streets for the longest and was a former professional who lost everything after a gambling debt went wrong. Hana is a newer resident and transgender cabaret performer whose life completely fell apart after her partner suddenly passed away. And Miyuki is a runaway teen whose interpersonal conflicts with her parents created a massive rift that escalated in horrific ways. I first stumbled across this film in junior high and it was a beacon of absolute hope and joy. I don't think y'all understand, but growing up as a queer anime geek in Kansas in the mid-2000s was not all fun and games. Being queer in general during that time was really hard, and finding media that represented us was like finding a diamond in the rough. I was ecstatic whenever I found any type of queer media, good or bad. So when I stumbled across this gem that was queer and anime, you best believe this puppy became my whole world. And even a decade later, it's still a comfort movie and honestly one of my favorite Christmas movies to watch during the holidays. And that's saying something, because I'm Jewish. When asked about the film, Satoshi Kon said, "Homeless people, as the term implies, have no home. But in this film, it's not just about people who have lost their homes, but also people who have lost their families. And in that sense, this film is a story about recovering lost relationships with families." The concept of found family is nothing new, but Tokyo Godfathers amplifies it. By the baby miraculously appearing before our trio, each one of the characters is given an opportunity to explore their own familial trauma and possibly start healing it. The countless cinematic layers reveal themselves over the course of the film and are solidified with each additional viewing. I honestly cannot recommend this puppy highly enough and hope that it can become one of your new favorite holiday staples. Paranoia Agent was Satoshi Kon's one and only anime series. It's an anthology-style roller coaster of insanity. This series acted as a vessel to pour all of the excess ideas that Satoshi Kon hadn't had a chance to explore on the big screen. It also acted as promo and in-between material to keep up hype for future projects. I remember when it came out back in the day, but I didn't really watch it except for an episode or two because I didn't have cable. But everyone around me knew it as the weirdest anime they've ever seen. Yeah, she's out there. There is a main storyline woven throughout, which kind of takes a backseat for certain episodes, but it all comes back together by the absolutely ridiculous ending. Something snaps around episode 8 and shit just goes absolutely haywire. Like, things mostly made sense and fit into a kind of story format leading up till then, but then from episode 8 on, you just get to see Satoshi Kon let his imagination run wild. It is an experience. What I really loved about it though was catching all of the throwbacks and Easter egg homages to Kon's earlier work. The gossiping housewives and nurse from Tokyo Godfathers made a cameo, and the blurred reality lines paired with the chaotic ending during certain episodes was reminiscent of Perfect Blue and sometimes even Millennium Actress. There was also a lot of foreshadowing of Paprika elements. A lot of the music, technological gadgets, musical cues, and final episodes have undeniable similarities to different parts of Paprika. When I originally watched this in full a few years ago, I did not appreciate it. One of the downsides of binging hundreds of anime in only a few years so that you can catch up after being gone for over a decade is that things fall through the cracks. I was watching so many anime as fast as I could, and I just didn't appreciate it the way that it deserved. When I rewatched the series to make this video, I was absolutely blown away just by the sheer amount of storytelling that Satoshi Kon is able to tell over a mere 13 episodes. The aspect that stuck out to me the most is how the series deals with various mental illnesses, mental health issues, and psychotic breaks. Kon treats each of his characters with care and respect and tells their stories without villainizing or exploiting them. I could write a whole video essay alone just breaking down the characters. And listen, I'm not even remotely qualified to diagnose any of these characters, so these are only guesses. But some of the characters display characteristics of depression, anxiety, dissociative identity disorder, PTSD, borderline personality disorder, and suicidal ideation. Paranoia Agent also deals with tackling very difficult topics like sexual assault, violence, and workplace abuse. Working with this many delicate topics, Paranoia Agent could have very easily gone horrifically wrong. But with a genius like Satoshi Kon in its helm, Paranoia Agent turned into a verified Toonami core cult classic. Paprika is a masterpiece. If there's only one thing that you watch from this video essay, please watch this one. Now, I am very stingy when it comes to handing out 10 out of 10 anime ratings, but you best believe that Paprika hit 10 out of 10 and then some. It is the single greatest anime movie I have ever seen. It's so weird and wild that even Hayao Miyazaki was like, dude, chill the fuck out. The storytelling, character development, batshit insane plot, and absolutely immaculate score are truly next level. It's truly one of those films that you can't really describe right. You gotta just blindly trust whoever's recommending it to you. Because of that, I'm not going to give you a big plot breakdown. So I'm only going to say this. Paprika is a story about technology that allows one to enter and examine another's dream. This technology falls into the wrong hands and the line between reality and dream start to blur. Sound familiar? Sound like, I don't know, Inception? Well, that's because Inception stole its main concepts from Paprika. Paprika came out in 2006. Inception came out in 2010. Like, look at this shit. Sierra Wardlaw of Film School Rejects argued that Inception was influenced by Paprika, based on similarities too numerous to be a coincidence. From the focus on dream-sharing technology, to Adrienne's wardrobe, to references to Greek mythology, physics-defying hallways, significant dream elevators, and the choice of having a Japanese businessman to be the one to hire Cobb and the Dream Ting, among other things. But putting aside my endless rants on how Hollywood keeps stealing concepts from Satoshi Kon without crediting him, let's circle back to what I love about this movie. Paprika is one of those films that pushes the boundaries of what anime can be. Its sheer vibrancy, visuals, sound design, and score just absolutely assaults you. The characters have ungodly levels of development. And the plot, like, good God, what drugs were they taking? Because I absolutely want some of them. This shit is straight ridiculous in all of the best ways and wraps up perfectly. I would definitely recommend watching this puppy a few times because, the sheer amount of details is unreal, and you're gonna learn more with every single watch. Paprika is actually what got me back into anime. I left the community for about 12 years and returned in 2020. And it was because of watching this film that I was reminded of the sheer joy that anime brought into my life. I may have been on substances that night when I decided, let's watch Paprika because it's hella trippy and it's exactly what I need right now. But while I was watching, I don't know, it just tapped into that rare childhood joy that makes you believe that there's actually hope in the world. It was honestly a sobering realization that I had just been coasting by. I wasn't actually happy in my life. I was just surviving from one thing to the next. And Paprika, she helped me slow down and reminded me what I was like when I was actually happy. It was in these moments that I decided to start watching anime again, and I dove back into this world that had brought me so much joy. Between that magical experience and the initial viewing that changed my life, Paprika is honestly one of my most treasured pieces of media. She's always gonna have a very special place in my heart, and she will forever be a masterpiece. It's an indescribable tragedy that Satoshi Kon left us so soon. He kept his stage 4 pancreatic cancer diagnosis a secret even to some of his close friends in the anime industry. Near the time of his death, he was in production for his next film called Dreaming Machine, but disappeared in the middle of production. The final script for the movie was recorded on his deathbed by producer and longtime friend Masao Murayama, who was the founder of Madhouse and Mappa Studios, who also gave him his big break and produced many of his films. When diagnosed, he was only given half a year to live and decided to not go public with the news. Satoshi Kon died at the age of 46 on August 4th, 2010, surrounded by family. His death shook the anime industry to its core and was a devastating loss across the board. To add to the list of tragedies, his final film, Dreaming Machine, was never made after being in production hell for years. However, Masao Murayama has not completely given up on the project and was quoted saying, "If a talented director from overseas is willing to take on this project, it is not entirely without possibility." I personally think that Masaaki Yuasa should give it a go, but that's just my personal fever dream because I adore that man. When attempting to describe the immeasurable magnitude of what Satoshi Kon brought to the table as a creator, I think Dean Dubois, co-creator of How to Train Your Dragon, said it best. Satoshi Kon used the hand-drawn medium to explore social stigmas and the human psyche, casting a light on our complexities in ways that might have failed in live action. Much of it was gritty, intense, and at times even nightmarish. Kon didn't shy away from mature subject matter or live-action sensibilities in his work, and his films will always occupy a fascinating middle ground between cartoons and the world as we know it. Satoshi Kon has brought so much joy into my life and helped me transform as a person. He created an arsenal of work that broke through boundaries and helped anime evolve as a whole. His legacy has inspired more artists and creators that I can name in a single video. He will forever be one of my favorites in the anime industry and a revolutionary figure. May we all take notes from his work and strive to cultivate a more empathetic community overflowing with acceptance. Because after all, Satoshi Kon dedicated his life to creating art to help us embrace the darkest, unhinged, and most beautifully flawed parts of ourselves. Let it be a blessing to his memory for all of us to try just a little bit harder to give ourselves that same grace.